The night I proposed, my fiancée said, "Don't expect to be my priority. My friends matter more." When I showed her she wasn't mine either, she went crazy, begging me to stop. Sup, Reddit. The night I slipped a ring onto my girlfriend's finger, my fiancée casually told me I'd never be her priority. That spot, she said, had been earned by her friends 9 years ago. I smiled, nodded, and then spent the next month showing her exactly what it feels like to be someone's backup plan. I'm 29, male, and I proposed to my fiancée Maris, 28, at Marcato, this Italian place in Portland where we'd had our first date. I spent 3 months coordinating with the owner, dropped $6,000 on a custom ring from a jeweler in the Pearl District, even bribed the pianist to play her favorite song. When she said yes, the whole restaurant erupted. Champagne appeared. Strangers came over to congratulate us. It felt like one of those perfect moments that only exist in movies. We got back to my place in Southeast around midnight, both of us still riding that engagement high. We did the whole celebration thing newly engaged couples do. Afterward, lying there in the dark, I was already thinking about honeymoon destinations and whether she'd want a spring wedding or a summer one. That's when she dropped the bomb. "You know you'll never be number one, right? The crew comes first." She said it as casually as if she were ordering takeout. I actually laughed at first, thinking she had to be joking. "What? Come on, babe." She rolled toward me, smiling like she just shared some adorable quirk. "You know how tight I am with the girls. Senna, Britt, and Eloine have been with me since sophomore year at USC. That's 9 years. You've been around for 2. Math isn't that hard." The happiness drained out of me so fast I felt dizzy. "Maris, we literally just got engaged. You're telling me your college friends will always take priority over your husband?" "Well, yeah," she said like I was slow. "They've been through everything with me. Every breakup, every job disaster, every family crisis. They're my real support system. Breener, you're just the guy I'm building a future with." Cool. So I'm just some dude who stuck around long enough to earn a supporting role in her actual life. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there staring into the dark, replaying all the things I'd ignored. The anniversary dinner she bailed on because Senna had a situation. The Bend trip we'd planned for 6 months that got canceled because Britt needed help moving. The countless nights she chose 3-hour FaceTime sessions with the crew over watching even one episode of something with me. Every time I told myself it was fine. That's what supportive partners do. Around 2 in the morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, got dressed, and went for a drive, because lying next to that sentence felt like slow suffocation. I called Duran too, because nothing screams healthy engagement like calling your buddy at 2 a.m. just to make sure you're not hallucinating. He picked up on the 3rd ring. "This better be good. Maris just told me I'll never be number one. That her friends come first. We literally just got engaged." There was dead silence on his end. "Brother, what?" "Yeah, like it was some terms of service pop-up I forgot to read. Apparently I'm signing up for the bronze medal package." "That's insane, Breener. That's not how this works." I stared down at the steering wheel like it might suddenly give me a software update. "Well, I guess I'm not engaged anymore." "Correct," he said, instantly awake now. "Because that's messed up." I drove back around 3:30 a.m. Maris was awake, propped up in bed, her phone lighting up the dark as she laughed into it. "Senna says we should do a rooftop engagement party," she said without even looking up. "Sounds perfect, right?" I stood there in the doorway watching her type, watching her grin at whatever Senna was saying, and something inside my head went very quiet and very cold. "Yeah," I said. "Sounds perfect." She didn't even hear the edge in my voice. Then her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, smiled, and started typing back while heading to the bathroom. I said, "Got some work stuff to handle." "Perfect. I'll probably be gone in a few hours. The girls want to hear every detail." She was out the door 20 minutes later, her phone already glowing again as she texted the group chat. That gave me time to think. Time to start lining things up. By Sunday morning, I wasn't sad anymore. I was operational. I called my landlord about my 2-bedroom place in Southeast, the apartment I'd had for 4 years before Maris moved in 18 months ago. "Breener, hey?" he answered. What's up? Need to give you a heads up. Maris is moving out. Lease stays in my name. Then came the math part. Maris wasn't on my lease. I'd never added her because something in my gut told me not to lock that in. But she'd been living here rent-free for a year and a half. Well, rent-free is generous. She was supposed to split utilities and groceries, cover half the internet and streaming services. Back when she moved in, we'd sat at my kitchen table and agreed she'd cover half the rent and utilities. She even Venmo'd me $1,200 the first month with rent in the note. After that, it slowly turned into excuses and those little $200 pity payments. I opened my banking app and started tallying everything up. 18 months of, I'll Venmo you later, while I watched her order takeout on my card like it was just another perk of dating me. She'd basically been coasting on my dime the entire time, all while treating me like I was the backup plan. The rent alone was $2,400 a month. Her half would have been $1,200. Multiply that by 18 months and you get $21,600. In reality, she'd paid maybe $3,000 total during that whole stretch, and honestly that's me being generous. Then there were the utilities she skipped, the groceries she promised she'd handle but somehow never did, and the streaming services I paid for that she used constantly. The truth is I wasn't even angry about the money itself. What got to me was the fact that she genuinely believed I wouldn't notice any of it. And that was before we even got to the loan. About 6 months earlier, Maris had gotten herself into a tight spot. Her company had delayed bonuses, and suddenly she had this huge tax bill due. Something like $8,000 she hadn't planned for at all. She'd been freaking out about it, pacing around the apartment, talking about asking her parents for help and how humiliating that would be. I'd offered to help her out. Actually, I'd offered to just give her the money, no strings attached. But she insisted it be a loan. Said it would be more professional that way and promised she'd pay me back within 6 months once her bonus came through. We even wrote it up properly, signed and dated it because she wanted it official. I'd honestly forgotten the whole thing until that moment. That night, I pulled the document out of my file cabinet and looked at it again. $8,000. Signed. Dated. Payment terms clearly written out. She had made exactly one payment, $500 back in March. After that, nothing. The 6-month deadline had passed 2 weeks ago. Suddenly that little piece of paper looked a lot more useful than it had before. After I hung up the phone, I canceled the autopay on the utilities, the internet, and that meal delivery service she'd insisted we absolutely needed. Then I went about my evening like nothing had changed. I hit the climbing gym, then the range, then came home and started meal prepping. When Maris finally walked in the door later that night, she was practically vibrating with excitement. "The girls are so excited," she said, dropping her purse and immediately shoving her phone in front of me, showing screenshots from the group chat. All caps messages, endless strings of emojis. "Senna's already looking at venues. Britt knows this photographer who's amazing, and Eloine thinks we should do a destination wedding. Maybe Tulum." "Sounds great," I said calmly, plating the chicken I'd made. "Whatever makes you happy." She wrapped her arms around me from behind and hugged me tight. "This is why I love you, Breener. You just get it. Most guys would be all jealous and insecure about how close I am with the girls. But you understand they're part of who I am." I just smiled, kissed her temple, and served dinner. She was busy planning a destination bachelorette party while I was quietly planning her exit route. Same energy, completely different planets. Wednesday night, she went out for engagement drinks with the crew. I stayed home and drafted the notice. Clean, formal, simple. 30 days to vacate. Oregon law was clear about it. Since she wasn't on the lease, I didn't even need a reason. I just had to give proper notice. I printed 2 copies, one for her and one for my records, then slid hers into an envelope with her name written on the front. But I didn't give it to her yet. That part needed the right moment. And by then I had a better idea forming in my head. The night Maris completely lost her mind at poker night. Thursday evening I texted Darren, Dashel, and Dev. "Game night at my place. Saturday, 6 p.m. bring snacks." Darren replied almost instantly. "This going to be interesting?" "Very." Maris was sitting on the couch scrolling through bridesmaid dresses when I told her. Having the guys over Saturday. Poker, games, the usual. She barely even looked up. Cool. I want to stay. Okay. That finally got her attention. She looked up and smiled, actually looking excited. Really? You want me there? Sure. Why not? What she didn't know was that I'd already talked to the guys and told them exactly what Maris had said the other night. Saturday came around and Maris spent the entire afternoon getting ready like she was preparing for some kind of social exam. She changed outfits twice, kept asking if she looked okay. I could practically see the gears turning in her head. Finally, Briner is prioritizing me in front of his friends. Finally, I'm being included. The guys showed up right at 6. They brought local IPAs. Dashel had soda. Dev walked in carrying pizza and wearing a grin that made it clear he understood the assignment. Maris came out of the bedroom wearing jeans and a nice top, smiling brightly. Hey guys. Hey Maris, Thurin said flatly, the same way someone might acknowledge a coworker in the break room, then immediately turned to me. Yo Briner. Remember that time at Dashel's cabin when you caught that bass with your bare hands? Dashel burst out laughing. Dude almost drowned trying to grab it. Maris's smile flickered for a second, but she held it together. She tried easing her way into the circle. Should I order more food? I can get Thai from that place you guys like. Dev glanced up while setting up the poker table. Nah, we're good. Then he looked over at me. Briner, you want to grab wings later maybe? Yeah, could do wings, I said. Maris just stood there, her offer hanging in the air like nobody had even heard it. I watched her face closely and saw the confusion slowly creeping in. But she pushed through it because Maris always pushes through whenever she's not getting the attention she thinks she deserves. We started playing cards and I dealt the first hand. Maris sat on the couch behind us with her phone out, trying to look casual, but I could feel it. She was waiting for an opening, waiting for a moment where she could slide into the conversation. Dashel started telling a story about some disaster at his gym. So this guy's benching 315, he said. No spotter, and I swear he gets pinned. Maris jumped in right away. Oh my gosh, that happened to Briner once, remember? Babe? Haha. Yeah, Thurin said quickly, and then immediately turned back to Dashel. Wait, so how'd they get the bar off him? Dashel kept going like Maris had never spoken at all. The conversation just flowed around her. She tossed a comment into the air and it sank without a ripple. About 10 minutes later she tried again. That's like when Briner and I went to that climbing gym and… Yeah, totally. Dev cut in without even looking at her. Then he looked at me. Briner, weren't you saying you wanted to check out that new bouldering place? Yeah, we should go next weekend, I said. Maris's mouth slowly closed. She'd been in the middle of telling a story, but nobody cared about the rest of it. And it kept happening like that. She'd say something, get a quick 2-word acknowledgement, and then the conversation would pivot straight back to me like she was just a speed bump they'd already passed. Around 7:30, Thurin started talking about his ex. I just got tired of being the second option. You know? Like if you're with me, be with me. Commit or bounce. Real talk, Dashel said. Loyalty is everything. You can't half-heart a relationship. Dev nodded. Some people just don't know how to prioritize what's right in front of them. Like, who even does that? None of them looked at Maris. They didn't say her name, but I saw her shift on the couch. I saw her jaw tighten. She knew. Briner's always been solid though, Thurin continued, glancing over at me. Dude shows up. That's rare. Facts, Dashel said. If I'm committing to someone, that's my person. Simple as that. Maris's face was getting red now. She stood up, went to the kitchen, came back with a soda she didn't even open, and tried to look unbothered. She was extremely bothered. A few minutes later, she tried to push her way into the next conversation. Dashel was telling a story about a road trip when she jumped in again. Briner and I are planning a road trip soon. We're thinking, oh nice, Dashel said quickly. Then he looked back at me. Briner, remember when we drove to Colorado and your tire blew out in the middle of nowhere? I laughed. Dude, that trip was insane. And just like that they launched into the story, inside jokes flying back and forth, callbacks I'd never told Maris about. Stuff she couldn't possibly follow. She sat there trying to smile like she got it, but the truth was obvious. She was on the outside of a locked door listening to everyone else laugh inside. By 8 o'clock, she stopped pretending to be casual. Her phone was gone now. She was just sitting there staring at us. At me specifically. The look on her face was half confusion, half something that looked a lot like panic. Then suddenly she stood up. "You know what? I think we should all play a game together." Nobody answered. "Like together," she said louder. "As a group. I'll grab cards against humanity." Durin glanced at me. "We're good with poker. Thanks." "No, come on," she said, her voice climbing slightly. "It'll be fun, Breener. Don't you think?" I kept my voice calm. "We're in the middle of a hand, Maris." She stood there for a second, visibly calculating something in her head. Then she did that thing I'd seen her do 100 times before whenever she wasn't getting her way. She forced herself into the center of attention. "Oh my gosh, you guys," she said suddenly, her voice way too excited. "I have to tell you something." Everyone looked up, not because they cared, but because the energy suddenly felt strange and desperate. "So I finally hit 10,000 followers on Instagram today." She was grinning like she'd just cured cancer. Like, "I've been working so hard on my content and it finally paid off. Isn't that crazy?" Dead silence. Doshel blinked. "Cool. That's great, Maris." "Nice," Dev said, already looking back down at his cards. Durin didn't even acknowledge it. He just reached for his drink. Maris stood there with that smile frozen on her face, clearly waiting for more. Waiting for congratulations, excitement, literally anything. Nothing came. "I mean, that's a pretty big milestone," she pushed, her voice getting higher now. "Most people never even get to 5,000, and my engagement rate is like really good now. I might even start doing brand deals." "That's awesome," I said flatly, without even looking up from my hand. "Breener, you could at least act happy for me," she snapped. I finally looked up at her. "You want me to stop my friend's poker night so everyone can celebrate your Instagram followers?" She faltered. "I just thought. You thought we'd all drop everything and throw you a party for hitting 10,000? Durin said, disbelief dripping from his voice. "Right now, during Guy's night." Her face turned bright red. "I wasn't trying to make it about me. I was just sharing. By announcing it like you won a Grammy," Doshel said. "Nobody cares about your Instagram, Maris." Dev shook his head slowly. "Read the room." She looked around at all of them, then at me, and I could actually see the moment it hit her. The exact second she realized she'd just made herself look completely desperate and shallow in front of my boys. "I'm going to go," she said, her voice shaking a little as she grabbed her purse. I'm going to go." "Cool," I said calmly. "Drive safe." She left. The door slammed behind her. For a moment the apartment went quiet. Then the guys all looked at me. "Bro, what the heck was that?" one of them asked. I sat back down at the table. "That," I said, "is what 2 years of being taken for granted looks like." Doshel let out a low whistle. She really just announced her Instagram followers like we're supposed to give a darn at poker night. "Main character syndrome," Dev muttered, shaking his head. "Yeah," I said quietly. "She did." We went back to playing cards. I didn't hear from her for 3 hours. The confrontation came later. The guys left around 10:30, still dropping jokes about loyalty and showing up, loud enough that it felt like the walls themselves would remember. I was cleaning up, loading the dishwasher, when Maris came back just before 11. At first she came in quietly. I could feel her standing in the doorway watching me. "What the heck was that?" Her voice was tight. "What was what?" I asked, rinsing a plate and setting it in the rack. "You and your friends. I was there all night and you treated me like I was just hovering. Like I didn't matter." I turned around and leaned against the counter. Weird feeling, right? "Don't do that," she snapped. "Don't turn this into some kind of what, Maris?" I asked. "Lesson. Reality check. You told me I'd never be your priority. That your friends come first. Always. So I figured I'd show you what that actually feels like from the other side." Her face flushed red. That's completely different. How? Because my friends have been there for me for 9 years. They've earned that spot. And I haven't earned basic respect after 2 years and a ring? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I could see her trying to find some angle where she was right and I was wrong. It wasn't landing. This is nonsense, she said finally. You don't just ice someone out like that. They weren't even rude to me. That's what made it worse. I was just there in my own freaking apartment and nobody cared. It's educational, I said calmly. I've been living this for 18 months. Maris, every time you picked a FaceTime with Senna over watching a movie with me, every time you bailed on our plans because Britt needed something, every anniversary, every birthday, every normal Tuesday night, I got whatever was left after the crew took their cut. I never ignored you, she shot back. You did worse, I said. You made me think I mattered while making sure I knew I didn't. At least tonight you knew exactly where you stood. No mixed signals. She was shaking now. Not sad shaking. Angry shaking. The kind that comes right before someone does something stupid. You're a jerk, she said through clenched teeth. Maybe, I replied. But I'm a jerk who knows his worth, and it's more than third place. That's when she grabbed the vase off the side table. It was this heavy glass thing we'd picked up from some home store months ago. For a split second, I thought she was going to throw it at me. She didn't. She threw it at the wall next to me instead. It exploded. Glass shattered everywhere. The wall behind me took a dent. I didn't move. I just stood there looking at her while my ears rang. Feel better? I asked. She was breathing hard now, staring down at the broken glass like she couldn't believe she'd actually done it. Then she looked back at me, and for a second I saw something in her face that looked almost like fear, because she knew. She knew she'd just crossed a line we don't come back from. I walked past her into the bedroom, then came back with an envelope and the loan document. I set them both on the counter between us. 30 days, I said. That's your notice to vacate. You're not on the lease. This is my apartment. You've got until the end of the month to find somewhere else. Her face went white. Breener, and I want the ring back right now. She looked down at her hand like she'd forgotten it was there. You can't be serious. Dead serious. Ring. Now. We're engaged. We were engaged, I corrected. Then you told me I'd never be your priority. Then you just threw a vase at my wall. So no, we're not engaged anymore. Ring. Her hand went to her chest instinctively, protective. This is insane. You can't just, I can. And I am. You've got 3 seconds before I add destruction of property to the lawsuit I'm filing. Lawsuit? I picked up the loan document and held it up. $8,000. You paid $500. That's $7,500 you still owe me, plus 18 months of rent. Your half comes to $21,600. You paid maybe $3,000 total. That's $18,600 in unpaid rent, plus utilities you skipped, groceries, internet, all the stuff you said you'd cover and didn't. I set the paper back down and looked straight at her. I'm taking you to small claims for the loan. As for the rent, we had an agreement. You Venmo'd me with rent in the note the first month. After that, you just stopped paying. So yeah, I'll be pursuing that too. She was staring at me like I was a stranger. You're actually doing this. Her voice wobbled. You threw a vase, Maris. I'm not letting you play victim here. This is done. Ring. Her hands shook as she pulled it off, setting it on the counter like it was burning her. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Nah, I said. Biggest mistake was putting that ring on your finger in the first place. Second biggest was letting you live here rent-free while you treated me like the backup plan. I picked up the ring and pocketed it. 30 days. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. She stood there for a few seconds longer, breathing hard, and I could see her calculating whether tears would work. They wouldn't. Not anymore. She grabbed her keys and purse and left. Didn't come back that night. I swept up the glass, fixed myself a drink, and slept better than I had in weeks. The friend invasion. The next 2 weeks were predictably rough. Maris moved into Senna's place but still had stuff at mine. She'd take things in batches, leaving passive-aggressive notes about how I was ruining her life. Her texts were a mix of begging and threats. I ignored most of them, responding only to practical ones about pickup times, and left her belongings where they were. Doreen helped me change the locks on day 3. She tried to come back yet? Twice. Rang the doorbell for 10 minutes straight last night. He grinned. Persistence. Desperation. By week 2, her friends decided to get involved. I was home on a Wednesday afternoon, working remotely, when my doorbell started ringing. Not normal ringing. Aggressive ringing. The kind that says someone is holding the button down. I checked the video doorbell. Senna, Britt, and Elian, the whole crew, standing on my porch looking like they were about to shoot a revenge music video. I opened the door but left the chain on. "Can I help you?" Senna stepped forward. She was the ringleader. Always had been. "We need to talk about what you're doing to Maris." "I'm not doing anything to Maris. She's moving out. That's it." "You kicked her out of her home," Britt shot back. Always the aggressive one. "My home. My lease. She was never on it." "You're being abusive," Elian said, phone out recording. "This is financial abuse. Emotional abuse." I looked directly at the phone. Maris lived here for 18 months without paying rent. I have bank records proving she paid maybe 15% of what she agreed to. I also have a signed loan document for $8,000 that she defaulted on. If anyone's been financially abused here, it's me. "That's nonsense." Senna's voice got louder. "You're just mad she has friends who actually care about her." "I'm not mad about anything. I'm just done being treated like I don't exist. She told me I'd never be her priority, so I made her not mine." Pretty straightforward. "Let us in," Britt said. "We need to get the rest of her stuff." "Oh, she can come get it herself during the times we agreed on. You're not on the lease. You're not coming in. We're not leaving until you let us in." Senna crossed her arms and planted her feet. The other two did the same. Real solidarity moment. I pulled out my phone. "Cool. Then I'm calling the cops for trespassing." "You wouldn't dare," Elian said. I dialed. Put it on speaker so they could hear it ring. "Portland Police non-emergency line." Senna's face went from confident to confused in half a second. "Yeah. Hi. I've got 3 people on my property who are refusing to leave. I've asked them multiple times. I need them removed." The dispatcher asked for my address. I gave it. She said someone would be there in 15 minutes. I hung up, looked at the 3 still standing on my porch. "You've got about 14 minutes to decide if you want to be here when they show up." "This is insane," Britt said, pacing now. "You can't just call the cops on us." "I can. And I did. You're trespassing. I don't want you here. That's all the cops need to know." I could hear sirens in the distance. Not close yet, but getting there. Senna heard them too. "Fine. We're leaving. But this isn't over." "Yeah, it is. Don't come back." They left, walking down my driveway, throwing insults back at me the whole way. I watched them pile into Senna's Audi and peel out just as the police cruiser turned onto my street. The officer took my statement, saw the video doorbell footage, made a note, and said if they came back I should call immediately. Then he left. I went back inside and got back to work like nothing had happened because really, nothing had. Just 3 people learning that being loud doesn't mean being right. The move out. Maris was gone by day 28. Didn't even take the full 30 days. A moving company came by, loaded up the last of her stuff, and that was it. No final conversation. No closure. She texted me one last time, "I hope you're happy," then blocked me. I was happy. Apartment was quiet. No more passive-aggressive notes about dishes. No more waking up to her FaceTime laugh at 1 a.m. No more being the last priority on someone's list while paying for the privilege. I filed the small claims paperwork for the loan 3 days after she moved out. The rent thing was trickier, harder to prove since most of it was verbal agreements. But the loan was airtight. Signed, dated, payment terms clearly stated. She'd have to show up to court and explain why she thought she didn't need to pay back money she borrowed. I blocked Maris's number. Blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, everything. Then I blocked Britt, Eloin, and Senna for good measure. Clean break. No loose ends. No opportunities for any of them to crawl back into my life with apologies or drama. 2 months went by. Quiet. Peaceful. I'd been seeing someone casual. Nothing serious, but consistent. Met her at a climbing gym which felt appropriate. She was direct. Didn't play games. Showed up when she said she would. Novel concept. I'd almost forgotten what it felt like to have my life be about me. Then my doorbell rang at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. The desperate return. We'd just finished takeout on the couch. Her in one of my hoodies because my apartment runs cold. She was scrolling through Netflix trying to find something that wasn't garbage while I cleaned up containers in the kitchen. I checked the video doorbell from my phone. Maris, alone. She looked like absolute misery. Hair in a messy bun. No makeup. Wearing sweatpants and a hoodie that was definitely too big for her. Not the put-together Instagram girl I'd known. She looked broken. You expecting someone? I called from the couch. Not anymore. I almost didn't answer. Should have stuck with that instinct, but I went and checked anyway. I opened the door, left the chain on. What do you want, Maris? Breener. Her voice cracked immediately. Please, I need to talk to you. We don't have anything to talk about. Please. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. She leaned forward, trying to look past me into the apartment. Her eyes landed on the girl still sitting on my couch, controller in hand, watching this whole thing unfold. Maris's face did that thing where the gears are clearly turning, but nothing's computing right. Against my better judgment, I closed the door, undid the chain, and stepped out onto the porch, pulling it mostly shut behind me. Talk. She wiped her face with her sleeve, still glancing at the door. Are you your business? You've got 4 minutes left. That snapped her back. They kicked me out. Who? Senna? Britt? Eloine. All of them. She let out a shaky breath. Senna said she said I was a black hole, that I sucked up all the attention and gave nothing back. And then Britt agreed and Elian and they told me they needed space, that they couldn't be friends with me anymore. Okay, I don't have anyone, Breener. Her voice went higher, more desperate. My parents barely talk to me. My sister's in Europe. I moved back home for a month, but my mom kept asking when I was going to get my act together, and I have nobody. Not my problem. I know it's not, but She stepped closer. I stayed where I was. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. You were right about everything. About me putting them first. About taking you for granted. About all of it. Cool. Glad you figured that out, Breener. Please. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have appreciated you. I should have made you my priority. I see that now. You see that now because you're alone, not because you actually changed. That's not true. I've been going to therapy. I've been working on myself. She pulled out her phone, showed me some app. Look, I've been doing this self-reflection journal thing every day. I'm trying to be better. I looked at her, really looked at her, and all I felt was nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no sympathy, just nothing. Maris, you came here because you have no one else left. Not because you miss me. Not because you actually value what we had. You burned through your friend group the same way you burned through me. And now you're scrambling for anyone to fill the void. That's not. It is. You're not sorry you lost me. You're sorry you're alone. There's a difference. She was full-on sobbing now. Please, Breener. Please. I'll do anything. I'll pay you back. I'll be better. I'll make you my priority. I swear. 2 months too late with that offer. We can start over. We can. No, I said it flat. Final. We can't because I don't want to. I'm good. Maris. Better than good. I'm the best I've been in years because I'm not spending every day wondering if I matter to someone who clearly didn't give a darn about me. I did give a darn. I loved you. You loved having me around. You loved what I provided. You didn't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have needed to lose everything else first to realize what you had. She stood there shaking, tears just pouring down her face. Her eyes kept darting to the door behind me. So that's it. You're just done? You're already with someone else. I've been done since the night you told me I'd never be your priority. This is just you finally catching up. Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? Figure it out like I did. Like everyone does when they hit the floor. You'll survive. You just won't have anyone to use as a cushion on the way down this time. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. You're cruel. No, I'm just not your safety net anymore. Goodbye, Maris. I went back inside, locked the door, watched through the video doorbell as she stood on my porch for a solid 3 minutes, crying, probably hoping I'd change my mind. I didn't. Eventually, she left and drove off. You good? The girl on the couch asked, looking up at me. Yeah, I'm good. Want to talk about it? Not really. Cool. Found a documentary about that fire festival disaster if you're interested. I sat back down, grabbed my drink, put my feet up on the coffee table I'd picked out myself. Perfect. My phone buzzed 5 minutes later. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Please, I'm begging you. I have nowhere else to go. I blocked the number without showing her. No need to drag someone else into old drama. Another text came through. Another number. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking anyway. Please, block that one too. She tried 4 more numbers before she gave up. I grabbed another soda, settled back into my leather couch Maris had never picked out, and watched a documentary Maris would have never wanted to watch with someone who actually wanted to be there. The apartment was still clean but not empty, and I went to bed that night feeling absolutely nothing about turning her away, because some people only want you when they have no other options. And I was nobody's last resort. The aftermath. 3 months later, I got a notice about the small claims court date. Maris didn't show up. Judge ruled in my favor by default. $7,500 plus court costs. I knew I'd never see all of it. Getting money from someone who doesn't want to pay is like pulling teeth from granite. But I filed for wage garnishment anyway because principle matters. I ended up collecting about $4 grand over the next 6 months. Not the full amount, but enough to feel like justice got served, at least partially. The rent money was gone. I'd known that going in. But the loan payback felt like a win. Small, petty, maybe, but mine. My apartment stayed mine. I resigned the lease in my name only. Hired a junk removal service to get rid of the furniture Maris had picked out. Replaced it with stuff I actually liked. Leather couch instead of that beige fabric monstrosity. Proper TV stand. Coffee table made of actual wood. The gym became my therapy. Climbing 3 times a week, lifting 4. I added 15 pounds of muscle without even trying, because my cortisol wasn't constantly spiked from wondering if I mattered. The casual thing I had going turned into something more solid around month 5. Not because either of us was rushing it, just because it worked. She had her own place, her own life, her own friends. When we hung out, it was because we wanted to, not because someone was keeping score of who initiated last. She asked me once what happened with my ex. I gave her the short version. She told me I'd never be her priority. So I made her not mine. She nodded. Good for you. Most guys would have stayed and tried to fix it. Can't fix someone who doesn't think anything's broken. Exactly. Went to a Timbers game solo about 6 months after everything went down. Grabbed nachos, found my seat, watched the whole thing in comfortable silence. Portland won 2-1. I went home to my quiet apartment, made food, watched whatever I wanted, and fell asleep without anyone's phone lighting up the room at 1 a.m. Best sleep I'd had in years. Guys, we are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 1,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come